Step back in time and discover the wild and fascinating world of intimacy in ancient Egypt. From the mysterious rituals of the pharaohs to the everyday lives of the common people, we'll uncover the surprising truths about love and relationships in one of the most powerful civilizations in history. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be amazed as we delve into the hidden history of ancient Egypt's intimate secrets. First and foremost, tearing a chapter out of ancient Egypt. Love was an essential component of ancient Egyptian home organization. This emotion surprised us, since most ancient civilizations either did not emphasize the component of love, or, if they did, just outside of marriage. However, love was ubiquitous in ancient Egypt. As corny as that sounds, it was real. The greatest evidence that the Egyptians placed a high emphasis on love is seen in their literature and art. The most renowned example of love shown in art comes from King Tutankhamun, one of Egypt's most famous pharaohs. Tutankhamun is well known for being the king who ascended to power at a young age and died at the age of 18. While this tomb has become renowned in modern times, it is the murals unearthed within that illustrate Tutankhamun's love life. In numerous images, Tutankhamun is seen with his bride, Ankhesenamun, who was also his half-sister. They are seen close together, which in the context of ancient Egyptian art already symbolizes intimacy. However, the manner in which they are portrayed is as important. They are shown holding hands, making romantic gestures with their hands, and being quite expressive towards one another. Such paintings symbolized a love narrative in which both parties respected one another for the ancient Egyptians. From then on, love was for everyone, not just the kings. Tutankhamun's example, on the other hand, is not an exception. Many such examples of regular people professing their love for their spouses may be found throughout Egyptian history. One example may be found in a poem in which it is said that love renders individuals incapable of accomplishing even simple duties. This seems like a current high school love tale in which the newly in love pair is smitten and can't stop thinking about their significant other. Grief was publicly expressed by the spouse left behind after the loss of a lover. All of this reveals a culture that valued love and the relationship established by two lovers. As a result, Egyptian culture was largely supportive of, and even strove to encourage, romantic values. Furthermore, marriage was an important structure that enabled social cohesion in ancient Egypt. The most fascinating aspect of ancient Egypt was the marriage life. Marriage was given a lot of significance in society because there was a lot of focus on cohesiveness. The community was more likely to flourish if individuals had successful and loving marriages. As a result, many marriages in ancient Egypt were founded on mutual respect and affection. In ancient Egypt, women were treated significantly better than in Athens, Rome, or even China. Women were not supposed to be only the man's property. Instead, they had numerous privileges and were significantly less stigmatized for their actions. Marriages were similar in that they were arranged by parents, as they were in many other ancient cultures. However, there were a lot more distinctions in how marriage operated in ancient Egypt. Following then, there were marriage ceremonies and traditions. The ceremony itself was radically different for first-timers. When compared to Greek or Chinese marriage practices, where sacrifices, omens, and other ceremonies were frequent, life in ancient Egypt was uncomplicated. There were no ceremonies on the wedding day. The newlyweds would most likely stroll down a decorated road to their new home. The wedding was completed when they entered the home jointly. Another kind of marriage that was done on a trial basis existed. Couples who are uncertain about their compatibility may live together for a year. They might either continue with the marriage or dissolve it after this step was completed. This was dubbed the Year of Eating and carried no shame. Dowry and gifts were required as part of the marriage contract. The lady would bring her own personal stuff that she could do anything she wanted with. Similarly, the groom's family agreed to pay the bride's family a flat amount of money to finalize the marriage. Notably, The mother's children were hers even if her spouse died or the pair divorced. When compared to how women were treated after divorce in other ancient cultures, this custom stands out. Also, divorce was made simple. Divorces were similarly uncomplicated in ancient Egypt. The married pair decided that they did not want to be together any longer and would split. Divorces became more sophisticated later on, and there were legal contracts that detailed the payment of dowry that the wife first provided. The husband might even choose to pay alimony to his ex-wife on a monthly basis. Divorces in the modern era must have drawn cues from the Egyptians. Moving on, they could possibly marry anyone. This is by far the oddest aspect of ancient Egyptian weddings. It might also explain why a lot of royalty died young. You might marry your own sisters and even daughters in ancient Egypt. These incestuous connections were most common among the upper class, particularly among royalty. Tutankhamun, for example, married his half-sister. Tutankhamun was born from an incestuous union. Tutankhamun's mother was the daughter of his father, Akhenaten. This kind of interbreeding had a significant impact on the lives of Egyptians. Tutankhamun was born with several physical defects, and King Tut's children were also stillborn. People in Egypt most likely did this for religious reasons. Religious scriptures, for example, mention the deities Shu and Tefnut, who were siblings who married one another. Other stories about incestuous relationships may help explain their predominance in ancient Egyptian culture. Finally, there were no sexual taboos in ancient Egypt. While it is often assumed that the ancient Egyptians were not as open to displaying sexuality as the Romans, it is clear that sex was not unimportant to them. We do know that there were few to no sexual taboos. Sex was as natural to the Egyptians as eating, sleeping, or working. It was just a part of life. Premarital sex was also not frowned upon, and having illegitimate offspring was not frowned upon. Abortion was legal in ancient Egypt, and it made no difference whether you were a virgin or not. In truth, there was no such thing as virginity in ancient Egypt. Extramarital affairs, on the other hand, were strictly forbidden. That was the one thing that was strictly forbidden. This might be because, as previously said, ancient Egypt placed a high value on societal harmony. In fact, several legends describe how being unfaithful would destroy both the partnership and society as a whole. There were also harsh sanctions for adultery, which might end in death. Homosexuality is also said to have existed in ancient Egypt. While the prevalence of same-sex relationships is widely discussed, there are several tales featuring same-sex relationships. Perhaps the most well-known is King Pepi's gay connection with his general. While there are differing opinions on whether they were romantically linked, the king's narrative is often mentioned when discussing homosexuality in ancient Egypt. Given the casual attitude about sexuality, it would come as no surprise if homosexuality was the norm. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating content like this.